Hey everyone, let's wait for a few minutes. Probably let me know if you are in chat and you're able to hear me. Okay, let's see if I'm live. Yeah, I think I'm live. Uh, so thanks thanks everyone for joining. S- So what we are going to do in the stream is like I'll try to maintain this like every Monday to Friday. I'll do it from 10 to 11. I wanted to do this Angular course, but yeah, due to some of course commitments I couldn't do it, so I decided to live stream it. And this course will cover Angular 16. We'll talk about I will use all the new features of Angular 16. We'll also use NX tools, which is like of course a must for the enterprises. So if you're like working for any enterprises, probably you'll be using NX, or you're already using NX. The chances are really high that you are already using NX in case you are working for an enterprise. And we'll also try to introduce the NgRx uh, to our application, which we will build. And what we are going to build is probably an e-commerce app, which for which we will use some fake APIs. Yeah, we'll not build our own API because I don't want to invest much time into writing the API as of now. Probably later on, probably because I want to explore more about Next.js. So maybe, sorry, not Next.js. Nest.js, right? So I want to go ahead and start exploring Nest.js again because it's been quite a time. I last wrote some Nest.js code. So yeah, I want to do that as well. So probably we'll include that as part of this course, which will go on, and probably we'll increase the number of streams maybe. But for as of now, it's going to be just like an hour long stream, 10 to 11 CT. And of course, all this will be recorded and it will be available on the YouTube channel. So in case you want to revisit, you can go ahead and do that. So, as today is like the first stream, of course, we will do a little bit introduction, right? And we'll hey Praveen, we'll do the introduction and we'll install the softwares which we need, right? Because there might be someone who is right really new to Angular and NX, and they should be able to follow as well. So mostly, yep, let's not invest enough time or much time doing this. So but yeah, before you go ahead, of course, you let me just tell you a little bit about myself. So I work as a senior software engineer at a company called Celonis here. They're in Munich. I live in Germany, Munich. Sorry, Germany, Hamburg. And I'm a GD for Angular. Of course, before going to course, you should know right from whom you're learning. So yes, I'm a Google developer expert for Angular. I'm also a GitHub star, and then I'm also an ex champion. So hope it gives me a little bit credibility that I can do this. Like I can post some videos. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So first thing, you need Node.js installed on your machine. So let me share my screen and then walk you through what are the different softwares which you have to install. So let's go ahead and let me share my screen. Great. So hope you are able to see the screen now. And the first thing is, yeah, as I said, we need Node.js. So Angular 16 does support Node.js, or even NX 16 does support Node 18. So you can go to Node.js, and right now 18.16 is the LTS version. So you can go ahead and download it. Let me see if I have the Node 18 on my machine, and you can verify it by using node hyphen version. It will give you, okay, so right now I have 16. So I think it's best time I should upgrade to 18 as well. Let's see. So can go to downloads, node 18. Let's run the setup. Hey Praveen, thank you for joining. I'm sure it's very late in India, but you still joined, so thank you so much. Opening when completes. Yeah. So as I already have Node.js installed, it will just upgrade. So let's see how much setup, how much space it needs. Okay, so next, I accept, next, next. What is this? One second back. Node.js. Okay, automatically install the necessary tool. Install chocolatey. I think yes, I should do yes, but it should work. I think it should be very quick. I mean, it does should not take enough time, but let's see. So first thing is, of course, we need Node.js. So go ahead and download Node.js as I said, uh, Node 18 because we are going to use Angular 16 and NX 16. In future, let's say if you are watching this video after few months or few years, let's say because with every release, every NX release, major releases of NX or Angular, the Node.js version may be different. The version supported may be different. Right now it's 18, 16 and 18, which is supported. So maybe in next release, let's say maybe 18 and 20, which is supported. So always verify this before you start any new Angular project, right? So you how you can verify? I'll just show you. So you can go to angular.io and you can go to docs. Here, node versions and compatibility. So you can go to always go to angular.io and go to this page, version compatibility, which is under updates and releases. So you can see 16 supports Angular 16 supports Node.js 16 and 18 both. So you can install whichever you want. So anyway, so I want to use 18. I wanted to upgrade Node.js. So let's use 18. And once you start, please go ahead and check, right? So please go ahead and check which version you have and which version is supported by the Angular at that particular time. Hey Shravan, hi. Okay, so done. Node.js is installed, and we know the compatibility guide. The next thing which we need is an editor. So feel free to whatever uh, feel free to install what or use whatever IDE you want. I mean, I'm a big fan of VS Code, so I use VS Code always. So you can go to VS Code and just download it for whatever OS you have, right? For example, I have Windows right now, and I use at work I use Mac OS. So use feel free to install whichever suits for you or which is better for you. Can you make this channel as one stop for Angular? Stone, there are many channels like very specific to Angular, but I mean, I cannot guarantee that I will just do Angular here because I just want to keep it like the related to technology, just not Angular. By upgrading, so cool. So now we have Node.js installed, we have Visual Studio installed. That's it. So these are the two things which we need. So as I said, we what we are going to do is we are going to create an e-commerce application which will have Next, NX or NX Dev Tools, as you know. Then it will also have Angular. So to start a new repository or to start a new project with Angular or with NX, let's verify if I have the version 18. Perfect. So the first thing is which we need to do is we need to create a workspace. So what is a workspace? Let's talk a little bit theories as well, right? I mean, this theories might be might sound boring, but of course that's something which you need to understand as well. So here, let's go back to my browser. Where is that here? And let me draw something, right? I mean, Hopefully you are able to see this still. Yeah, you're able to see this. So in Angular has its own CLI. Why should we use NX, right? So that's a basic question you will ask if you have never tried NX before. So if you know Angular, you Angular using Angular CLI, you can create apps, you can create libraries, and then you can use libraries inside apps, right? So generally, let's say this is my app. So I can say this is my shopping app, which we can call it as eShop, right? And then if I want to break this code into multiple smaller chunks, or you can say the smaller code which can be maintained, what we can do is we can create libraries. So I can say, okay, this is, let's say, this is home, right? And then I can just copy this and say this is my product. And we can say, okay, there is one more library. This can be cart. And then, of course, if you want to break it even more, what you can have is, of course, you can have your design system, right? So you have your design system, which probably gets used into all the above libraries you have, right? So you can say, okay, this, where is the pointer? Yeah. So this uses design system, and then this uses the design system, and this uses design system. So we break this into smaller chunks, and then this can be all your different routes, which is of course being called from your eShop. So if I talk about an enterprise application, this may something which this is something which may your app may look like, right? But this is a very small app. I mean, I'm talking about if I'm talking about an enterprise application, you will not have only three. You can have many more. With some of the projects which I have worked with, like they have more than 100 projects. Right now, the project which I'm working with, we are close to 100. I think we crossed 100. So this is very small example of this, uh, uh, or of an enterprise application, right? Where we are talking about just an e-commerce app. So once we use Angular CLI and we create a structure like this, where we have an app. This is my app. These are four libraries basically, one, two, three, four. So these are different libraries which we have inside this application. Now, once you want to build those, let's say you want to build your application. So with Angular CLI, the thing which we have to do is we have to build all this first, so we can go ahead and use them inside our main application, which which is okay, right? I mean, you can say, okay, anyways, we have to build it, but remember, you have to build it every time. So even though I've changed something into design system, not so let's forget about design system, because it affects everything, because it's being used everywhere. Let's say if I change something in my home library, even in this case, I have to build everything, and then we have to build our application, or we can deploy our application. NX reduces this overhead. So NX says, hey, what in case you have just built home? So we know that we have to build your application and we have to build home. So this is something which NX takes care of it. So takes care for you. So NX has some concept of caching. So it caches all the build which we have. Angular also has some kind of incremental builds. So they also introduced caching around Angular 13. So you may see an .angular folder in case you are still using Angular CLI or you are using NX. NX also uses the same cache, or it respects that cache. It just does it. It will not override that cache. So you may see .angular folder after migrating from probably older version to Angular 13. So they also have some kind of cache, but it's not that solid as what NX has. So NX knows what is changed, and it will try to build only those things. So you don't have to build every application or every part of your application every time again and again. So NX is very smart when it comes to what needs to be built. And second thing is, of course, tooling, right? I mean, if you see, once you start an Angular CLI project, so you get, of course, an Angular project. You don't have end-to-end test, right? So protector was dropped, and then you have to go ahead and choose something which is available in the community. NX already has integration with Cypress. So once you create a new application, which we'll see, of course, for sure, soon. So you will get an Cypress component, Cypress end-to-end test configured for you. You don't have to do anything. Then, of course, NX also has just support. If you remember, Angular also dropped the support for Karma, so now it's not supported anymore. So you have to go ahead and bring some tools of your choice. So NX already has this. NX has uh, just support for you. So once you create an app, you can choose what unit test framework you want, and one of them is, of course, just is by default, of course, and then you can just go ahead and use it. Storybook. So let's say if you are creating your own UI framework or UI library, of course, you need to test it, right? Somehow. So, of course, nothing is better than Storybook nowadays. So you can use Storybook. This integration is also available. Also, with Angular CLI, I'm sure you all are fan of ng update. So in case you want to migrate to next version, we just do ng update, right? We are cool. We are cool developers. So we just do ng update and we just don't care what is going on. We do care what's going on, but yeah, just saying that it takes care of everything. NX also has NX migrate. So remember, so when you do ng update, you migrate your Angular code, right? But NX takes care of your NX, of course, your Angular migration. It takes care of your Cypress migration. It takes care of if you have a storybook migration. If you have just it takes care of your just migration as well. In case you have a Cypress component test, I think you can also do that. I mean, your Cypress component tests will be migrated as well. Cool, right? I mean, you need tools for your enterprise application because you cannot just use Angular CLI, and NX brings all those tools to you, and it's supported by of course, like used by many enterprise application now, and it's not limited to Angular. So in case you have, let's say, React app, you can still go ahead and use NX. If you have Nest.js, Next, there are many different frameworks which are also supported now. It has like reached way above. I mean, you can also use your backends. So for example, if you have a .NET code, if you have a Java code, Java Spring Boot, I'm not talking about Java, but Spring Boot, so even you can bring those inside your NX monorepo. So if you want to read more about NX, of course, you have the homepage nx.dev. You can go to nx.dev and you can read more about the NX, right? To start good to start with, I mean, of course, there are some advanced concept which you might want to learn. Of course, once you start exploring little things, you will get deep into what is needed more for your own use case. So they NX team has their own YouTube channel. You can just go ahead and subscribe to that, and they also have a community Slack. So might be wondering why not Discord, but yeah, I mean, so they had Slack way before Discord became cool. So you can join community Slack. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel they have. You can follow them on Twitter, as well as, of course, give it a star. So you can go to GitHub /narwhal.nx/nx and just give a star to NX. I mean, this is like free and open source. So hey, Mohammed, thank you. Thanks so much. Cool. So I think now we have good solid idea about why NX. Let's go ahead and create our first workspace. So NX works on the idea of having applications and libraries, and we'll see how we can create those, right? I mean, and there are different types of libraries. I will not go deep into that because I already have two videos on my channel if you want to learn about it, so you can refer that. But let's start. So first thing, of course, we need to create a workspace. So what is a workspace? So workspace is where you will you will have your all your code, and to create that you have a single command. So you can do npx create nx workspace. And in case you are on Twitter, I mean, I'm streaming this on Twitter for today. I will not do it from tomorrow. So in case you are on Twitter, just go ahead and find my channel, subscribe to my channel if you want to. I mean, it's not mandatory, something which you have to do. But if you want to subscribe, I mean, you can subscribe. But tomorrow onwards, all the streams will be on YouTube only. And this is the command. So you can say npx create nx workspace. I hope you are able to see all these commands because I don't see, I mean, I don't know what is the resolution. So it's an full HD resolution, but is it visible from your side, in case, just in case someone is watching and can confirm if they're able to see each and every line. So let's say, where would you like to create your workspace? So this is your folder name. I mean, you have to give a folder name where all these projects will be created. So let's give it a name, and which is the hardest thing, right? I mean, naming things. Uh, what should I call it? So let's say this is my. Is it blur? I mean, okay, let me see if this is full HD. Let me just reduce the resolution probably. So I have no, that should not. Shravan, maybe just go ahead and update the resolution on your YouTube. Yeah. About learning, I mean, Mohammed says one feedback here, the sense about learning Angular detailed. So yeah, I mean, I forgot about that. So if you want to learn Angular, only Angular, I have an YouTube course already available. So this course is not like getting started into Angular. This is like, of course, a little bit advanced, where we are going to learn about Angular as well as NX, because this is more targeted towards making you understand how things work in enterprises, right? So if you want to learn Angular, like basics, I will suggest go to YouTube and search for Angular getting started, and go to free code camp. And this is the video. This is like 17 hours course, which I published last year around August. So it uses Angular 13, not like too much backdated, but yeah, it's Angular 13, and it has more than around like 760 770K views now in 9 months. So go through this video in case you want to just get started, don't want to learn about what NX is. So don't worry, this is taken care in this video or this course. So quality learning tech, yeah, this is a good idea. But let's say this is my project, so I'll name it. Yeah, Shravan, yes, this is the full HD, so you should not see the blurry videos actually. Let's name something. No, this is. Mhm. Let's call it as Angular e-commerce. Great. So now we have to choose. So as a support, as I said, NX supports multiple type of projects. So you have, let's say, React, Node, Angular, and I would choose Angular, of course, because this is what we want. So configures the Angular app with modern tooling. So let's go with Angular, and there are two options which you get. So we have standalone, we have integrated monorepo. So integrated monorepo is like which contains multiple projects, but right now let's go with standalone, right? Because we now you might have heard about standalone components as well. This is not standalone components, but yeah, this is a standalone app. So let's use SAS. I don't know much about styling. I mean, of course, I can do a little bit, but that's why I'll be using Angular material anyways. Would you like to use standalone components? Now it is actually asking whether you would like to standalone components in your application. So with Angular 15, actually we got the developer preview of standalone components, right? And sorry, with Angular 14, we got the developer preview of standalone components, and in Angular 15 it became stable. So we are using Angular 16 now, so it should be okay. So I think I will go with standalone components, and I will talk about what standalone components is. And would you like to add routing? Yes, of course. Enable distributed caching to make your CI faster. We don't have to worry about it right now. So let's say no. Okay, we should use it. I mean, of course, as I go more into detail about NX later on, I'll introduce this distributed caching as well. But as of now, it's okay. So it is using version 16.3.2 of NX, and it will create the new workspace. So it will take few seconds probably, and it is installing all the dependencies. That is done. It is creating our workspace. Let's see. Sorry. I think installation is complete. Just let's wait for a few seconds. So of course it's a live stream, so I cannot skip. Let's see. Checking your workspace. Let's open the folder. Probably the workspace is created. I think it's just taking some time. So let's go to Angular, and then this is Angular ecom. This one. Let's select the folder. Let's see the folder structure which we got, right? So if you see, this is like your src, and then you have app, and this is like all the files. This is a standalone app, right? So if you want to include more tools, for example, if you want to add Cypress, you want to add Storybook, I think we should add them as we move ahead, right? So right now, if you see, we have an E2E for this app, but we can have multiple apps. We can have multiple libraries as well, which we'll see. And this is very similar to what a structure looks like for an Angular project. So if you create a project using Angular CLI, probably this is very similar. So you don't have to like see any differences. That's why they introduced this now standalone uh, application, because not many people actually have multiple application. And even though you want to have it in future, I mean, you can change. So great. So we have src app, all the files. Let's go through all the files before we get started. Like, so let's see what we have. So we have an tsconfig.app.json, which is our TypeScript configuration file. Then we have one for specs, which is for tests. This is our root. So this tsconfig is actually extended by all the other tsconfigs. This tsconfig is very specific to editors. For example, if you want to have some configuration which you want to have it inside editor and not affect your code base, you can have it here. For example, I mean, some of the applications which actually improve the typings. For example, let's say you had an old application which is not on strict mode. So nowadays, I mean, it's been quite a time that if you create an Angular application, you get strict by default true, right? I mean, you get strict mode enabled, so you have to always fight with the typings. If, I mean, of course, if you're a very good in TypeScript, you don't have to, but probably a huge code base with so many developers touching it, there will be some problems. And let's say you are not able to use the strict mode, you can actually move this settings to editor. So you see this strict errors or strict mode errors, which you can call in TypeScript, inside editor. So it will not affect how your code is compiled. So this is very useful, this editor.json file. README, of course, everyone knows README. You can have some information about your application here. You have project.json. So this is very interesting. So Angular does not use Angular.json. Sorry, NX does not use Angular.json, but they have a project.json. So for each application you create, you get a project.json file. So right now we have a single application. So of course this file is outside in the root. But if you choose, like if you go to integrate, like we chose the standalone application, right? So when we were going through the CLI, we chose that we want a standalone app. So we just wanted to have one app, and then we can split. So this project.json will be created for each app and each library. So as we go ahead and create more libraries in future, you will see that we will have multiple project.json. So what does it contains? So in angular.json, the information which actually you have in angular.json, this is very similar. So it has all the information about how to build your application, how to serve your application. I mean, these are all the commands which we generally run. So how to run your lint, how to run your tests, and in case you want to just serve the static file. So this is also extra feature which is available inside NX, right? So generally we don't see this when we work with Angular. So uh, this all commands are actually specified here. Package.json, of course, all the packages which we are going to use. So right now you can verify that we are going to use Angular 16 for sure, because all the versions are on 16. And it's, you can see it already has installed Cypress for us. There is a project, end-to-end project also, which is created with Cypress 12. And then for formatting, we have also Prettier already available. So once you want to format your files, we can just run a command which is already available. We'll talk about it. And for test, we have just, so you can see we are here, just version 29.29.4.1 is available. So this is package lock. Of course, you can use it in case you want to use it on CI, for example, GitHub Actions. And it's in, so there are two ways, right? I mean, so generally for my personal project, I don't like to include package lock JSON, but if you're working on enterprise and you want to make sure that everyone has the correct package version, this should not be deleted. So in case your enterprise hundreds of developer are updating package .json, adding something to package.json, don't remove log files. If you're using yarn, I mean, you might have yarn log file. If you have package, you have package log. Hey Rishi, hi, good evening. So just don't delete this file in case. And then of course you have nx.json. So nx.json is a file required by NX, of course, but there are few things available here. So generally you have generators. You can also this named inputs is something which we'll learn about later on because it's related to caching. And target default, some default targets are already available here. Some cacheable operations. So this is interesting. We'll talk about this as well, and we'll go through this configurations in as we move ahead, right? So first task is, of course, learning about the Angular inside NX, right? I mean, how you can create a new project and use NX. This configurations is, of course, we'll explore in future. Then you have just configuration and just config.ts and just preset, both related to just. Prettier ignore as a set for formatting. Prettier is already created for us. ESLint for linting. Sorry. So you have all the rules available here, right? So you can see you have directive selector, component selector. These are the default ones, which you also maybe if you already have ESLint, you already have this configuration. I mean, so this is not something new. And ESLint ignore. And for each app, of course, you will also see an ESLint RC. So this is specific. This ESLint RC is root. Oh, okay, this is because I'm standalone. Sorry, because I'm in a standalone application, because that's why. I mean, I have this one. But in case you are inside integrated monorepo, I think we should we use integrated? I think we should. I mean, probably I'll talk about that as well. So this is like standalone application, right, which is created. This is like single app. So all the configurations are available in the root. So this is your ESLint config, and main.ts you already know about. Main, in case you already have little bit idea about Angular JS, sorry, Angular. So you already know about main.ts. So this is your entry file, like the first file which will be executed once you run your code base, and it uses the standalone APIs. So before, like Angular 15, I mean, there were no standalone APIs, so we used to actually we cannot actually just directly bootstrap application. So here, if you see, I mean, the difference is, so let's go to app component. So if you see, it says bootstrap application, and then it takes two parameters, so component and config. So let's see what those files are. So app config is, of course, your application config, and what we have here is actually just a router. So that's it. So this is how we actually provide router with standalone APIs. With Angular 15 and before, I mean, you can go through the Angular 13 course, which I have on Free Code Camp. You will learn about the older ways. This is standalone APIs or standalone component, standalone application. So you have this new way to configure router. We'll go into more detail like what this APIs are. Let's see app component. So now we have a component, and this property, I mean, so whenever you have a standalone component, how you can figure out, okay, of course, you have a standalone property called true. So for standalone component, you don't need to define Angular modules. So this is for the developers who already know about Angular modules. If you don't know about Angular modules, that's absolutely fine. Just forget about it. So here we have a flag saying, okay, this component is a standalone component, and what are the features which comes with this? Of course, we'll go into more detail and see. So let's see the configuration again. So you bootstrap your application, you pass your component, which is your root component. So because to render an Angular application, you need a root component, and first component which will be like available, like it's a container, and inside that component, all other components are actually visible. Where this component is actually available is actually index.html. So if you see index.html, there is a tag called Angular ecom root. Go to app component.ts and you will find this Angular ecom root here. So or you can also like go through the Angular 13 course if you want to learn about all this metadatas. uh, it is explained in more detail here. I mean, this is more about Angular like, and for enterprise. So I will not go into this details, right? I mean, this all these metadatas. So of course, we have a component which is standalone component, and now we are just bootstrapping that particular component. We don't need to worry about modules. And bootstrap applications takes the second parameter. So if you see, this is of course your root component, and then options. In options, you can pass what we can pass in options. So we have application config, and let's see this property, right? So yeah. So you can see application config takes the providers array. So providers is something where you can use all the services. So if you're coming from like Angular 13, sorry, before Angular 15, where there were no standalone APIs. So providers is where you can pass all the services, right? But inside providers, you can also pass this standalone APIs. For example, right now we saw provide router, which is a standalone API. We will also see something called provide HTTP, which will be used for HTTP communication. But you can also pass all those things here, right? So this is the second parameter, and the same things. This is exactly what we are doing here. So we are saying a provider, and then provide router app, whatever. I mean, you don't have to worry about this right now. As I said, let's see the component, right? So what we have inside this component. So we have template. Let's see what we have inside template. So we have a component and router outlet. For routing, Angular already has a library. So there are some libraries, right, which may have third-party routers. For example, React has React router, and for example, Woo has probably its own router. So Angular also has its own router library available by default. So if you go back to package.json and you see here, there is something called Angular router, so which is already available by default, and it's used for navigation. So in case you want to move from one menu to another menu, of course, you need some kind of routing functionality, especially used in single page application, right? I mean, uh, so it's not something which you can just use for SPA. You can use for SSR as well. Now Angular has strong support for SSR. So we created our this first component. Let's see how it looks like. We'll just run the command to serve this application. You can say Jan, hey Pradum, thank you for joining. And next serve. So with Nx, you have this command because I'm not using yarn. So let's see if I'm able to do Nx serve. Of course, I can always do npx Nx serve. What happened? So just wondering what's gone wrong because I'm not into the correct folder. So let's say open integrated terminal. I'll just use the terminal here. Or let's use the same. Let's use this one. So I can say npx and x serve. So you can see it starts the development server. It says Angular ecom, which is my project name or application name, serve, and it serves it in development mode. So this third parameter, which you see here, is actually which environment it is. So right now it's development. And let's go to application. It says, okay, your build is completed and the application is available on localhost 4200. And this is it. So you have your first application like with all with Nx and Angular available and created for you. So this is a starting page with all the Nx information. So you have documentation, blogs, YouTube channels, and there are of course Nx video courses as well, which you can see. And let's go ahead and make some changes to our component because of course we want to see, right, because this is the same application which is being served. I know. Let's remove this template and I can say hello from Angular Ecom Nx. And here it is. So of course, this is the same application which is being served. So because we made some changes into template and it is rendered. You can actually put your template inside your component. So using template property, which is where you can provide it as a string, or you can just have an HTML file and you can put your template inside an HTML file. It's up to you what you want to use, but I generally prefer my HTMLs or my template into a separate HTML file because I don't think so your templates are going to be very small. In case it is, just prefer having this template property, put it as string, and that's it. You don't have to worry about more. So you don't have to basically create more files. That's the advantage which you get. So first application created using Nx, and this is as we saw, this is a single project or single Angular project inside Nx. But this is not something which you will generally see in enterprises. So we'll of course see the different structure as well, where we can see um, more use of monorepos, right? I mean, where if you see what I mean by monorepo is like having multiple projects, multiple libraries. So we'll see that structure as well. But right now, this is like very specific to a single project inside Angular. You can actually create libraries here as well, as I said. So what we should do? You have to learn about a new CLI. Of course, I would not recommend going through all the CLI commands once you start. So what you can do is you can install an extension. So go to your extensions in case you're starting with NX for the first time. Search for NX console and install this NX console. Once you install it, you will see something like this, where you will get all the commands which you can run. So you see we have generate, run, start. You can do everything from here. You also have some common NX commands which is generally used. We'll see those of course in future. Right now, what we need is of course we need a generate command. So to create a new library, let's see, as soon as you click on generate, you get so many options. You have Angular host, convert to MF, convert to with MF, library secondary entry points, libraries, components, component test, everything is available here. So whatever you want to, in case you want to create a new application, you can do that here as well. So let's choose a library. So what we will do is, let's try to create something like this, right? With the single application. So I'll create a new library. It's Let's call it as home. And there are a few options here. So if you see, once you create library, you have something called, is it buildable, the directory where you want to place this library. Do you want to like lazy load this library? Uh, what is the parent? So in case this is using load children or children, depending on what lazy is set to. So in case you have this library which needs to be loaded inside another parent, so you can do that as well. Publishable libraries, we'll see routing and router configuration. If you want to, I mean, if you want to have your routing configuration as part of this library, it's very much suggested. I always suggest, in case you have a feature libraries which has its own navigation, always suggest going with the routing. So your this library has routes, and then you can split your home into multiple child libraries as well. So let's say you have some smaller libraries which is related to home, but they're not lazily loaded, right? So you can do that as well for time being, because we are anyways going to revisit and see the different structure which is generally used in enterprises, not the single application one. It's like with full monorepo support. So right now, let's go ahead and just create this library. So you can say, okay, create, just go ahead and click on run, and you will have a new home library created for us. So, okay, I clicked on run. What's happening here? Is it hanging somewhere? For time being, let's this. Mhm. Okay, let's open a new terminal and see if it works. Okay, what's wrong with the terminal? Clear terminal. New. Okay, something, it's stuck somewhere, looks like. Okay, let's reload the VS Code probably. File, close window. Ah, my laptop is very slow somehow. Why? Hmm. Okay, so terminal is loaded now. Let's go back to our console. So to generate anything, right? I mean, of course, you have a generate command which is available here. So we'll generate a library. Let's see. Hmm. Generate library. Hmm. Generate a library, and let's name it home. And so generally, once you use NX console, it also shows that what this command will do. So that's why I always prefer using NX console, because I don't have to like remember the commands, and then I don't have to like see later on what files are created. You can see all the files which will be created here. So you have this files, and then there are some updates as well. So your ESLint RC will be updated, and your project.json just config. So let's run this. I mean, yeah, that's fine. Great. So all the files are created. So you can see, so you have home library, which is created inside your root. This is like a different structure. As I said, this is a standalone Angular application with a single application. So that's why this all the libraries or all the applications which you will create will be available here. But yeah, for time being, it's okay. And then you have all the files which needs to be created available here. So you have home module, and you can add more uh, application, more components inside this, more services inside this, your directives, which will, of course, if you want to learn about them, go to my Angular course, which is already available. It's free, so you can learn more about Angular component, directives, services, everything there. So here, you already have a module. Let's create a component. So I can again use nx generate, and let's create a component. And I'll say this is name is my home component. I want this to be standalone. So let's choose that. Okay, this component should be standalone. I don't know why it's so slow. It's taking memory. Something is consuming my memory. I mean, laptop's memory. Again, this is bad. Okay, so we want to create a standalone component. So that's what we are going to do. We are not going to use the modules. And I have clicked on it, but it is taking ages for some reason. Let's see if there is something which is running in the background. Let's quit. Okay, looks like it's back now. So standalone. So you can also see it says, okay, the standalone is supported only after Angular version 14, because 14.1, this is where it was available with Angular. So, okay, let's do it again. Let's close this, generate, and say next generate. Let's do component. This is my home component. I want it to be standalone, and it is hanged again. Okay, let's with this and pass hyphen standalone flag, and it's okay. Sometime, of course. I mean, there's some problem with my laptop, looks like. But yeah, this is the standalone component which we have again. So you can see standalone flag is true. And let's add some information here. So I'll say this is home works. That's fine. I think just make it h1 so it's visible on the page. This is the first library which we have created. And let's export this component. So I'll just say export. So whenever you want to use something from the library, you have to export them. And this is how we do it. So you have an index.ts file where you will say, okay, this is lib, this form, and you need home component, because I want to show you how you can use standalone component inside another app, right, from a library. So this is my home library, and now I want to use this inside my app. So my app is here. Whenever you create a new library, you get and path mapping here. So in case you want to refer this library anywhere, or you want to use anything from this library, you have to use this namespace, right? So we'll go to src. This is the same way which we do it in Angular as well. The only problem is, the only difference you may see, this is a distributable path rather than this index.ts file, sorry, index.ts path. So let's go back to app component.ts. This is a component, right? And in case you already have used component, not the standalone, right? So in older ways where we used to define Angular modules, in case you're new, I mean, this is how we do it now. So we say import from my library. So my library is available here, and what I am exporting from this library. So you can press Control Spacebar, and it will give you all the APIs, or you can say in this Angular, as this is the Angular library. I mean, I can say all the components, directives from this library being which is available here. So what we need is home component right now, and to use this in older ways, or where we have concept of Angular modules, or in case you have an existing Angular module, you can add this into your imports array. With standalone as well, you will add it inside imports. So you can see, okay, home component, once I have added inside imports, I can go ahead and start using home component. So let's see. So here it is added. Let's see the selector. So this is the selector. You can go to my component, and let's comment this out and choose Angular ecom home. And let's run this application again. And this is compiled. Let's go back to our application, which is this. And let's refresh. And you can see homeworks. So now we actually created an app. We created a library. We use that library inside our app. And as also mentioned, this is a standalone Angular application. So let's see what is the difference. So in standalone application, you will find that there are no Angular modules. So in generally, when you create an Angular CLI app without standalone, you will get Angular modules, which is available. But here there are no Angular modules. To bootstrap an application, you have bootstrap application, and then you pass an Angular component or root Angular component directly. With Angular modules, you pass an Angular module, which is generally your app module. Also, and in bootstrap application, the second parameter is the list of providers which you can pass. By default, as we chose routing, this is already pre-configured for us, where we have this routing configuration provided for like provided by default. We can add more providers here. We'll see that later on, but I think this is enough for today. I mean, you got a little bit idea about how your standalone application looks different from your previous Angular application. If you are new to Angular, don't care about it. This is how it should be now in future. In case you're starting a new app, refer or go with standalone components and standalone application. So tomorrow, what we will do is we will continue with this, but we will use the NX structure, which is more used into enterprises, where most of the enterprises I work, where you have clear separation between what is apps and what is libraries. So here, if you see, app was already created for us by default, and then we created a new library which was inside home. And if you add new libraries, it will be created on the root. So you will have, let's say, if you create products, it will be also available in the root. But we'll see a different structure altogether tomorrow. So this is enough for today. And if you have any questions, feel free to come and join the chat. In case you want to learn anything, just let me know the topics which you think you want me to cover. Of course, as I said, I'm going to talk about Angular 16. So of course, it will include signals and all this new stuffs which you might have heard about. Uh, Standalone components, standalone applications, signals, and all this new routes. functionality which we also have, functional guards, everything, those will be covered here. But in case you have anything specific, just let me know. Shravan, so so as you asked, what will be Shravan has question, what will be the tomorrow's agenda? So we'll see the monorepo structure where you have clear separation between apps and libs. So we'll explore more about NX and the structure, right? The application structure or workspace structure, which is more used in the enterprises. So this is okay in case of you have a small side project where we are going to have a single application. But if you want to like, if you're going to work on enterprise, you should be aware of the other structure which we'll talk about tomorrow. And of course, we will add more libraries, and then we'll add more code base, and we'll see how it works. This so today was just an introduction about NX and standalone, how standalone application looks like, and how you create a standalone component as well. So it's time, and thank you everyone for joining. In case you joined from a different time zone, thank you so much. And as I said, like, feel free to suggest anything which you want to learn about. See you. Bye bye, everyone. Yes, Shravan, it will be same time. And in case it's like too late for you, probably you can also join. Like you can see the recordings they will be available anyways. So see ya. Bye bye.